Let's be real. When you think about dominant defensive linemen in the NFL right now, Chris Jones has to be at the top of your list. He's been wrecking offensive lines for years, and if you're a Chiefs fan, you've watched it all unfold. The sacks, the pressure, the clutch plays in huge moments. Jones isn't just good. He's been elite. But here's the question that's starting to come up more and more. Is Chris Jones already a Hall of Famer? The conversation isn't just about stats, it's about legacy. And when a guy like Jones, with multiple Super Bowl rings, All-Pro honors, and a serious reputation around the league, still has people saying he's not quite there yet, well, that tells you how high the Hall of Fame bar is. Now, don't get me wrong. Nobody's saying Chris Jones hasn't had an incredible career so far. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler, a 2-time Super Bowl champ, and he's been the anchor of this Chiefs defense for years. But even with all that, some analysts are still hesitant to call him a lock for Canton. So let me throw this one at you. Do you think Chris Jones is already a Hall of Famer? Drop a simple yes or no in the comments because I want to know where you stand. Has he done enough? Or is there still something missing? And look, if you've been riding with Chris Jones since those early days when he was just a young monster with potential, if you were hyped during those first double-digit sack seasons, hit that like button right now. Let's show him some love. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. We're building something special here on Total Chiefs News, and we're trying to hit 4,000 subscribers. Be part of that journey. We've got nothing but Chiefs content coming your way. All right, so we know Jones has the dominance. But what exactly is it that people think is still missing from his resume? Let's talk about that next. All right, so let's dig into it. If Chris Jones has the rings, the Pro Bowls, the All-Pro nods, and a serious highlight reel, what's keeping people from calling him a surefire Hall of Famer? It really comes down to two main things: individual dominance over time and total production. Now, Jones has had some monster seasons. No question. That 15.5 sack season back in 2018 put him on the national map. Since then, he's stayed consistent and disruptive. But when you stack up his career numbers next to some of the all-time greats, that's where some people start raising eyebrows. As of now, Jones is sitting at just over 70 career sacks. That's solid, especially for a defensive tackle, but it's not mind-blowing compared to guys already in Canton. Warren Sapp, for example, finished with 96.5 sacks. John Randall had 137. Even someone like Kevin Williams, who's still waiting for the call to the Hall, had more than 60 sacks and 6 All-Pro selections. What about accolades? Jones has 5 Pro Bowl selections and 1 first-team All-Pro. Again, strong numbers. But many Hall of Famers have multiple All-Pro seasons under their belt. It's not just about showing up every year. It's about being the best at your position consistently, and the Hall of Fame voters weigh that heavily. Then there's the whole Defensive Player of the Year factor. Chris Jones has been in the conversation, but he hasn't quite cracked that top tier where you're undeniably the most feared defender in the league. A DPOY on his resume could change everything, and that's exactly the kind of milestone that could push him over the edge. So here's a question for you. Should postseason dominance weigh more than regular season stats when it comes to the Hall of Fame? Drop a vote in the comments. I want to know how you would weigh those two parts of a player's legacy. And while you're here, do me a favor. Hit that like button if you think Chris Jones is still building his Hall of Fame case. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss these deep dives. We've got a lot more Chiefs breakdowns coming your way. Next, we're diving into one thing that might tip the scales in his favor: his Super Bowl legacy. Let's get into that. Now, if there's one area where Chris Jones absolutely shines, it's the postseason. And honestly, that might be his secret weapon when it comes to locking up a Hall of Fame bid. Because when the lights are brightest, when it's all on the line, Chris Jones shows up. And I'm not just talking about 1 or 2 good games. I'm talking about consistent, game-changing impact across multiple playoff runs. Let's not forget, this guy was a huge reason the Chiefs won not just 1, but 2 Super Bowls in recent years. Take Super Bowl Live against the 49ers. Jones didn't get a sack in that game, but he batted down multiple passes in critical moments. Those deflections changed the flow of the game. Then you look at Super Bowl LVIs against the Eagles. Again, no sacks, but constant pressure. His presence forced Jalen Hurts to move off his spot and disrupted timing. Stats don't always tell the full story, and in Jones' case, his postseason impact goes beyond the box score. He's also been a closer. Remember that AFC Championship game against the Bengals in 2023? When the Chiefs needed a stop, Chris Jones made it happen. That late-game sack on Joe Burrow? That's legacy stuff right there. That's the kind of moment that voters remember years down the line. And here's what's wild. Jones has done this while being double-teamed constantly. Offensive coordinators build entire game plans around trying to neutralize him. And still, he finds a way to show up when it matters most. So I want to hear from you. Which Chris Jones playoff performance stands out the most in your memory? Tell me in the comments. Was it one of the Super Bowls? The Bengals game? Maybe something underrated that flew under the radar? And while you're down there, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're trying to reach 4,000 Chiefs fans, and your support gets us there. If you love this kind of in-depth Chiefs content, you're in the right place. All right, so we know the postseason legacy is strong, but how does Jones stack up against the legends already in Canton? Let's compare him to some Hall of Fame greats next. All right, now let's do some direct comparisons. When you think about defensive tackles in the Hall of Fame, names like Warren Sapp, John Randall, and more recently Aaron Donald come to mind. So how does Chris Jones measure up against those guys? First, Warren Sapp, a Hall of Famer known for his explosiveness and playmaking ability. Sapp finished his career with nearly 97 sacks and was a 7-time Pro Bowler with 3 first-team All-Pro selections. Jones hasn't reached that sack total yet, but he's got the same kind of disruptive power. The difference? Sapp had a longer run as the unquestioned leader of his defense and racked up more postseason accolades. John Randall is another tough comparison. Randall was a relentless force with 137 sacks, which is huge for a defensive tackle. He made 7 Pro Bowls and was a 5-time first-team All-Pro. Jones's numbers don't quite reach those heights yet, but it's worth noting Randall's career started decades earlier in a different era. Plus, Jones is still active and adding to his totals. Then there's Aaron Donald, arguably the best defensive tackle of this generation and maybe ever. Donald's already in the Hall, and he set a new standard with multiple Defensive Player of the Year awards and eye-popping stats. Jones is often compared to Donald because of his similar skill set and impact on the game. The big difference? Donald's award wins and sack numbers give him the edge right now. So where does that leave Jones? He's clearly elite and has built a resume that puts him in the conversation with those greats. But he's missing a few key pieces, like the Defensive Player of the Year awards and those consistently high All-Pro selections that voters often look for in a Hall of Fame inductee. What do you think? Who do you believe is the best defensive tackle of the last 20 years? And does Chris Jones belong in that conversation? Drop your thoughts below. This is where the debate gets really interesting. If you enjoy these deep dives comparing the greats, hit that bell icon to never miss a video. We've got more Chiefs analysis coming that you won't want to miss. Up next, what does Chris Jones need to do going forward to guarantee he gets into the Hall of Fame? Stay tuned for that. So, we've looked at Chris Jones's career highlights, his playoff impact, and how he stacks up against Hall of Fame legends. Now, the big question: what does Jones need to do from here to lock in his spot in Canton? First off, continuing to dominate on the field is a must. At this point in his career, every sack, every forced fumble, every game-changing play adds weight to his case. Consistency is key. Voters want to see that he maintained elite status through the later years, not just flashes of brilliance. Second, chasing that Defensive Player of the Year award would be huge. It's not impossible. Jones has been close before. Adding a DPOY to his resume would be a game changer and a powerful argument for Hall of Fame voters. Third, adding another Super Bowl ring or two wouldn't hurt. Championships always elevate a player's legacy, especially when you're a key piece of the team's success, like Jones is for the Chiefs. Finally, reputation and respect matter. Staying a vocal leader in the locker room and being a model professional on and off the field helps. Voters don't just look at numbers. They consider character and leadership when making their decisions. So, what do you think? Can Chris Jones still become a surefire Hall of Famer, or is the window closing fast? Hit me with your vote in the comments. Yes, no, or maybe? And hey, if you enjoyed this video and want more in-depth Chiefs content, make sure to subscribe and smash that like button. We're so close to hitting 4,000 subscribers, and your support makes all the difference. Thanks for watching. Stick around for more Chiefs news and analysis right here on Total Chiefs News.